Hi everyone, Jason back here with you. I would like to take a few minutes to talk about Trump and the investigation into his campaign's possible effort to collude with the Russians. This will be part one of my Trump Russia in plain sight video series. There will be at least two parts, but I am not sure how many videos I will end up doing on this. However, in part two, we will discuss attempts by Trump to obstruct justice. I'm going to try to make this video a brief overview, focusing on the evidence for possible crimes that we can see as the public right now today pertaining to the infamous Trump Tower meeting that happened in the summer of 2016. This meeting included Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, Paul Manafort, and several well-connected Russians, including a Russian government lawyer. There was a lot of talk from Trump and his allies in the media, mainly Fox News opinion show hosts like Sean Hannity, Jeanine Pirro, and Laura Ingraham, about this whole investigation being a witch hunt. I will talk more about these media personalities in subsequent videos and display how, in my opinion, they are essentially blatant propagandists. I call them this because they willingly choose to ignore basic facts, some of which I will lay out here in this video. From the get-go, Trump has committed impeachable offenses. However, Fox and members of Congress who want to get their agenda rammed through, they let it go and have normalized his lack of respect for the rule of law. Since impeachment is a political process and not a legal one, bringing the president to justice and holding the president accountable relies on two main aspects. A, Congress doing their jobs, meaning asking the right questions in good faith during the ever-increasing committee hearings and congressional investigations we have seen since this whole debacle began. And B, the court of public opinion. Part B is where Fox comes in, but they are also heavily intertwined with Part A as well, since shifting public opinion a certain way, away from truth in this case, can give senators and congresspeople security and feeling like their constituents won't go against them for failing to follow up on potential crimes by Team Trump. For instance, if a significant part of a senator's base watches Fox and believes in their opinion show hosts as they would real news anchors, they are living in an alternate reality where every other outlet is fake and everyone is just out to take the president down. Okay, so more on that in later videos. For now, on to Trump and crimes, or at least highly impactful evidence of crimes that the public can see in plain sight today while connecting very few dots. Keep in mind, this is just a brief overview, as other more experienced and respected writers and journalists have put together far more of this than time will allow for my videos. One person in particular that I recommend you follow is Seth Abramson. I encourage everyone who watches this video to follow Seth Abramson on Twitter for more Trump Russia news. Okay, so now on to the Trump Tower meeting. First, a short bit of legal setup for why the Trump Tower meeting could potentially be criminal. While the media shorthand for what might have occurred here is the term collusion, conspiracy would be the legal term that could cover what happened in this instance. Sourced from Cornell Law School's Legal Information Institute, Title 18, U.S. Code Section 371, conspiracy to commit offense or to defraud the United States is, quote, if two or more persons conspire either to commit any offense against the United States or to defraud the United States or any agency thereof in any manner or for any purpose, closed quote. Or from a piece by Philip Bump, which appeared in the Washington Post on July 31, 2018, Stanford law professor Robert Weisberg breaks it down as such. Quote, conspiracy is an agreement to do a crime plus some overt act in that direction. It's really that simple, closed quote. Weisberg continues on to say you can punish an agreement to commit a crime even if the crime itself never ends up being committed. So then what crimes were the various parties involved in the meeting possibly a part of? I have read various opinions of legal scholars on the topic, but I will offer just one example in this video. Again, from Cornell School's Legal Information Institute, Title 52 U.S. Code Section 30121, Contributions and Donations by Foreign Nationals. It is illegal for, quote, a foreign national directly or indirectly to make a contribution or donation of money or other thing of value, or to make an express or implied promise to make a contribution or donation in connection with a federal, state, or local election, closed quote. Then further on in the same statute, it says it is illegal for a person to solicit, accept, or receive such a contribution. Finally, this brings us to the Trump Tower meeting itself, but I would like to focus mostly on the email sent between Donald Trump Jr. and Rob Goldstone, a British publicist who was acting as an intermediary between Trump's team and Russian oligarchs close to Vladimir Putin. These emails preceded the infamous Trump Tower meeting. Goldstone to Trump Jr. Quote, "Good morning, Amin." Amin is the son of a Russian oligarch close to Putin. "Good morning, Amin. Good morning. Amin just called and asked me to contact you with something very interesting. The Crown Prosecutor of Russia met with his father Aras this morning, and in their meeting offered to provide the Trump campaign with some official documents and information that would incriminate Hillary and her dealings with Russia and would be very useful to your father. This is obviously very high level and sensitive information, but is part of Russia and its government's support for Mr. Trump." Close quote. The email goes on to say that Goldstone can send the info to Trump Jr.'s father via Rona Graf, Trump Sr.'s longtime personal assistant at the Trump Organization. More on that a bit later in this video. Trump Jr. then responds on June 3 of 2016. Quote, "Thanks, Rob. I appreciate that. I am on the road at the moment, but perhaps I just speak to Amin first. Seems we have some time, and if it's what you say, I love it, especially later in the summer." Close quote. This last quote right there from Trump Jr. in his response to that initial email suggests that timing could be a big sticking point in how valuable this information is. Later in the summer of 2016 is awfully close to election time. Keep that in mind. So just from a bird's eye view, this is not a good look for the Trump campaign. I'm not going to go on and say it is enough proof on its face to constitute a crime, but it is insanely suspicious and paired with more factual information could easily be a criminal act. Based on the statutes I have cited, this could be a conspiracy, two or more persons conspiring to commit any offense. The offense in this case, well, I'm sure legal scholars will point out many laws and statutes, but I see the intended exchange of information, especially so close to an election, as a very clear contribution of not money, but a thing of value from a foreign national. Not only does Goldstone literally say that this was a way for the Russian government to aid Trump in his election bid, but the Russian lawyer who was one of the main players in the meeting by the name of Natalia Veselnitskaya has been referred to before as a Russian government lawyer, hence providing yet another link aside from the email evidence between the actual government of Russia and the Trump campaign. The emails cited here really show an intent and motive. It was to disseminate information from the Russian government to the Trump campaign in an effort to win the election. When Trump Jr. claims he would like the damaging information, especially later in the summer of 2016, close to election time, it adds even more credibility that this was really an illegal campaign contribution from foreign nationals. It might not have been money the Trump campaign was receiving from Putin's government in this case, but it was presumably stolen information which had clear value and was clearly election related. Why else would Donald Trump Jr. want that info? Was he just curious? Did he just want to spread rumors about Hillary Clinton like he was a middle schooler for no reason? Or was he trying to use something valuable to gain political power for himself and his family? My guess is that it was the last bit there that makes the most sense. There's no other plausible reason for Trump Jr. to be so gleefully accepting of such an offer at that point in time. Now, does this all lead to Trump himself? One would presume so, but I will not cover that in depth during this video. However, I will make a few brief notes. Via CNN, we do know that Trump Jr. made 3 phone calls to blocked numbers before and after the meeting. Interestingly enough, congressional Republicans failed to follow up with subpoenas to gather information on if the president did indeed know of the emails and meeting, and they also failed to follow up on who Trump Jr. spoke to on the phone via those blocked numbers. Also damning in this respect is the fact that Rona Graff, Trump's longtime assistant at his company, was mentioned in the email from Goldstone to Trump Jr. Politico reported in 2017 that if someone wanted to reach Donald Trump, they would have to call, quote, the woman who's been the gatekeeper at Trump Tower for a quarter century, Rona Graff, close quote. Rona Graff played a role at the Trump Organization very similar to what Hope Hicks did in the earlier parts of Trump's administration. She took calls, emails, and pieces of information of all kinds and passed them along to Donald Trump himself. So, we have calls to blocked phone numbers, a mention of Rona Graff, someone who was directly responsible for patching people through to Trump for decades, and we have Republicans in Congress who were surprisingly not interested in following up on any of these leads. It's almost like they don't really care or don't want to know. The whole episode is sketchy at best and criminal at its worst. Of course, this is a very small amount of information pertaining to those emails in the meeting, but it is telling that such a small percentage of said information can be so glaringly damning. Stay tuned for part 2 of Trump-Russia crimes in plain sight. I will be discussing blatant attempts at obstruction of justice made by the president himself. It will again not be exhaustive by any means, just like this piece wasn't exhaustive. But hopefully it will give a glimpse of how far congressional Republicans have gone to bury their head in the sand and protect their guy from obvious investigative leads. It will shine a spotlight on how little these men and women seem to care for finding out the truth and protecting the rule of law. Thanks again for watching. Please follow me on Twitter at JasonBPolitics. Hope to see you back here for part 2 very shortly.